to another impromptu video. This one is the result of a few conversations I've had recently with our customers, and it's really important that I get this message across, because it is one thing that I think really differentiates us in the marketplace. We will never ever be beaten on value. The expertise that we bring to our customers, the outcomes that we help our customers deliver successfully, we will never ever be beaten on that. But it's often puzzled me sometimes why we're beaten on price. Very, very rarely, occasionally of course, but very, very rarely, I say never here, but it is very rarely, will we be beaten if a customer is comparing apples with apples. But sometimes we lose on price because a customer is unwittingly comparing apples with pears or any other fruit. Take your pick. And that is why I think it's really important to have this video and really important to share what I shared in my previous video as our number one non-negotiable, which is to code everything. Now, if you throw your mind back to the world of traditional always-on compute, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And quite often we see customers repeating the same mistakes as traditional always-on compute when they move to cloud. They don't fully understand, or they don't fully embrace the cloud paradigm. There are many reasons for that. Sometimes they simply don't understand. Sometimes it's because they feel that it's less costly to do it in a more traditional way. But ultimately, I assure you that it will cost more. Traditional, when applied to cloud technology, is when you're building things out through the console. When you're building things out once, in no repeatable way. Essentially, it's the same way that your infrastructure team would build you a server and provision that into the data center. You're doing pretty much the same thing through the console on whatever public cloud service provider you're using. It's prone to error. It's humans that are creating that. So you can imagine if they've created one environment, they also have to replicate exactly that environment for your staging, for your dev test. Sometimes they're scaled accordingly, sometimes they're stubbed, but essentially it's down to the individual, the human, to create those as they are needed, often at the demand of the application development teams or other teams, but essentially they are servicing those teams in in a very manual and inefficient way. There is often a lack of confidence. Whilst there are tools that exist that enable you to compare environments and then understand the deltas that have existed between the two, but there is traditionally a lack of confidence in that, and with very good reason, because to manage the change from one environment to the next, to cascade those changes, to have change control, environment management processes in place, they are prone to error. They are prone to human error. And it is extremely time consuming to be able to cascade those changes, and there is a lack of confidence that exists because of that, because often there is unnecessary issues in an environment which then require someone to analyse where those issues have arisen, why there's inconsistencies between environments, so on and so forth. There's a lot of waste. You are standing up environments that essentially are persistent, whether they're your production environment or a non-production environment that has been created through the console, but they are going to be persistent until you burn them down. And then when you do burn them down and you will need to recreate that, of course it's very much down to an individual to create that. So there's a lot of waste there in terms of human effort, because that human effort is essentially doing a very repetitive task. It's a very manually consuming task. It's a pointless waste of time, in my opinion. I've already referred to a lack of consistency between environments and why that delivers a lack of confidence. But also they're costly. You're standing up environments that are persistent, that are always going to be burning in what should be an on-demand compute model. You are taking a lot longer and employing people to recreate environments on demand. You are paying people to essentially understand the differences between environments and remediate issues that should not really exist between environments. And you're not really benefiting from the significant opportunity to transform the way you understand and use compute by moving to the cloud paradigm and an on-demand compute model. Now, like I say, this is our number one non-negotiable. Code everything. Automated, using code, a part of your pipelines. Coding everything provides a golden truth. It provides something that not only is auditable, but is also something that is your golden truth. So it is the same code that you use to provision all your environments. So when you actually hit production, not only has your application development code been through various different cycles of deployment and testing, so has your environment. So literally every time you build a new environment, from your initial dev environment through to staging, through to production, you have built those environments, and you know that not only does the application code work, but the underlying platform code works as well. Their optimal cost. You are using environments on demand. You are wholly subscribing to the cloud paradigm. You are only using environments and standing up environments and being charged for environments when they're needed. Not only that, you're not paying people to manually recreate or stand up environments. You are using code which not only actually accelerates the process, but removes that need for not only a human to build that environment, but also a human to remediate what issues may exist between different environments. A developer's made a change in a persistent environment that isn't communicated correctly to the team that is responsible for standing up staging or production. And that change gets lost, which then causes an issue or an error that needs remediating in staging, or worse still, production, and so on and so forth. So you're optimizing your cost. Yes, there is a cost to maintaining that code, but it's nothing compared to the amount of manual intervention that's required for a traditional model, nor is it when you compare the amount of cost that your environment will be costing you, because they're all persistent. They are all stood up 24/7. They are not subscribing to the on-demand compute model, so you are not optimizing your costs. The use of code brings consistency across environments, and with that confidence. I've mentioned already that you actually, every time you deploy your environment, your platform, you're testing that deployment works. So every time, every stage you go through just further provides additional confidence that it is going to work, and that actually moving a release into production is just another step in the process. It's not this big thing that has to happen overnight with everybody on hand, because just in case something hasn't been tested properly. There's very little waste. It's optimal persistence. So you are only using environments as required. There's very little waste, both in terms of cost, in terms of your emissions, because you're reducing the amount of electricity that you're consuming. Everything is more optimal. There is lower waste, there are lower cost. And it accelerates everything. Because you're able to provision, often using self-service, platforms at a click of a button, there is less amount of time, effort required to stand these things up, no remediation required other than the person that has made the change and then tested it through. You are accelerating everything. You are creating organisational agility. So these are just some of the reasons why we believe that everything as code is incredibly important, key to you really understanding, benefiting and achieving the significant opportunity that is represented by the cloud paradigm. So to summarise, traditional methods, whether you're using them on-prem or in the cloud, yes, there's a lower upfront cost, but they are prone to error, and they are certainly not scalable or extensible, and there is minimal benefit. Versus the cloud paradigm, on demand, everything is code. There is a higher upfront cost. Yes, there is a higher upfront cost. That can't be got away from. It's not significant, certainly, when you consider that they are scalable, extensible, the benefits that I've mentioned, but that you will absolutely maximise the benefit of your investment. So for a slightly higher upfront cost, you will pay that back 1,000 times over as you continue to use, extend and enhance your use of cloud. Thank you.